Hello everybody and welcome to the Minecraft Disney Q&A. This is the series in which you send me all manner of Disney questions and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. Today's question comes from Mathis Machado, who says, "Hi Rob, it's El Tomato 2014. I have a question for you for the next Q&A. What do you think about a South American country in World Showcase, like Peru or Brazil? Thanks." So, that would be interesting. I'm all for more World Showcase countries. There's definitely room for it, right? If you look, there will be gaps between certain countries, and you can tell that's where Epcot was actually either planning to put a country and then those plans fell through, or they just wanted to leave that space open for future expansion. So the room is definitely there. And I think South America is definitely one of the regions of the world that we could tap into for a pavilion at Epcot that isn't really represented. I think some people might make the assumption that Mexico sort of covers that base, but Mexico's technically still North America. That and I think the oceanic nations, so like Australia or New Zealand, would also be really good nations to have represented. The real problem you have to consider is that the sort of economic basis that World Showcase was built upon isn't really the way Disney operates anymore. That is to say, when Epcot first started up, they relied heavily upon corporate sponsorship to sort of share the burden of the costs of developing these pavilions. Now, what's interesting is because these pavilions are countries rather than like Future World where, you know, it's just an attraction and you get a company, you can't really get the governments to get involved. And that's mainly because these governments will change power every couple of years because you have elections and they have budgets. And the way Disney operates is they want budget commitments in the like decade-long range. And, you know, like here in America, we have a presidential election every 4 years, so they can't guarantee that, you know, 7-8 years down the line they're gonna be able to give those budget funds that they otherwise would need. Whereas like with a company, you could sort of make that sort of decision because you have CEOs who will be there for, you know, 10, 15, 20 years, and on top of that you have contracts that'll last that long. So what they did was they would often find companies within those countries to sponsor it, and that was sort of their workaround. But now here we are in 2014, and it seems like Disney is sort of shying away from the corporate sponsorship model, and I think that's partially Disney shying away from it, and then the corporate sponsor shying away from it. You know, back in the 80s, the idea of sponsoring a ride was really, really appealing. Disney saw millions of people visiting a year, and that meant millions of people going through these attractions, and that was a very valuable form of advertising a brand, even if it just said presented by GE underneath. But here we are today in the internet era, and honestly, you could reach more people for less money through the internet, and so I think the value of sponsoring an attraction at Walt Disney World has dropped. And on the Disney end of things, they lose some creative control because now, you know, sharing that financial burden means that that's a company that has interests that they want to be seen to. And so what's really tough is I think that leaves World Showcase in sort of a limbo where it's going to be hard to find a reason to build a new country, especially, you know, when you look at the era of Bob Iger where everything sort of ties into something else. Now, for a really recent example, look at Norway and how they're replacing the Maelstrom with Frozen. And Frozen takes place in Arendelle, which is not Norway. I guess it's the closest relation you can see there, but it's not the same thing. And people wondered, well, why not like update Maelstrom or put another ride about Norway? And that's because that doesn't serve Disney at all. Disney doesn't own Norway, and it doesn't serve them to have people thinking about Norway all the time. But Frozen is something they own, and they do want you thinking about Frozen and wanting to watch Frozen and buy Frozen toys and all of that. And so I think that means, unfortunately, I would really be surprised if in the next 10 years we ever saw another pavilion, a country pavilion at Epcot. And I would be surprised if we didn't see more of this sort of shift where they take these pavilions for different countries and sort of blend them in with Disney properties. So I don't know if we're ever going to see it, but, you know, in an ideal world where you had an infinite budget, I would totally love to see a South American pavilion. Anyway, thanks for the great question. If you have a question, all you have to do is leave it in the comments below, and I'll try to get to as many of them as possible. I hope you have a great week. I want to thank you all for watching. Whatever you're doing this week, make the most of it because it makes it that much better. And I hope to see you next time for the next Minecraft Disney Q&A.